Hey everyone, are you ready for a really fascinating deep dive? Today we're going to be exploring the ideas of Carl Jung, that legendary Swiss psychiatrist who went beyond the surface to really understand what makes us, well, us.
We have this great YouTube video as our guide. It's called A Guide to Stop Wasting Your Life, Carl Jung's Path to Becoming Your True Self.
Oh yeah, from the Success Chasers channel.
Yeah.
This one, I gotta say, this one got me thinking, like really thinking about how we unlock our full potential. I can't wait to dive into this with you.
It really makes you think. It's not just about feeling better. It's about a total transformation. Jung gives us this framework to understand the human psyche on a much deeper level. And this video, I think it does a really, really great job of making some of these, they can be pretty complex concepts. It makes them relatable.
Absolutely. Okay, so Jung believed that we all have this unique potential, right? This truest version of ourselves, kind of just waiting to emerge. And he called this process individuation.
Yeah, individuation.
And it's not, just some self-help buzzword. It's about becoming whole, integrated, truly aligned with who we're meant to be. But what does that look like, in real life? Mm-hmm. What are the signs that we're on this path or that maybe we've strayed from it?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting.
Right.
Because Jung said that we often waste our lives, We waste our lives by living passively. We let these external pressures and expectations, they just dictate our choices. And, it's like, just imagine being stuck in a job that totally drains you, or, even a relationship that's no longer fulfilling, but you're just too afraid to make a change. That's what he's warning us against.
Yeah, so it's not just, spending too much time scrolling through social media.
Yeah.
It's about not fully engaging with life, letting it just happen to us instead of us shaping it ourselves. Man, that definitely hits home.
For sure. And Jung believed that, one of the biggest obstacles to this whole individuation process is what he called the shadow.
The shadow.
Now, this isn't about being a quote unquote bad person. Mm-hmm. It's about those parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable. The negative traits we try to hide or deny, even from ourselves.
Yeah. So like those things we dislike in others, those might actually be reflections of our own shadow. The video had this great example of procrastination. They said maybe it's not just laziness, but maybe it's a fear of failure kind of lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. That's exactly the kind of insight that Jung offers, because the more we try to repress those shadow aspects, the more they actually control us in these unconscious ways.
Right.
Think of things like self-sabotage, destructive habits, even conflicts in our relationships. It's really about recognizing those patterns and bringing them into the light of consciousness.
So how do we do that? Mm-hmm. How do we do that? The video talks about journaling as a tool for, what they call shadow work.
Yeah.
And they suggest asking ourselves, what are we afraid to admit, even to ourselves? What triggers strong reactions in us, and what are we avoiding dealing with?
Those are really powerful questions. And and it's not about, judging ourselves, right, for having these shadow aspects. Everyone has them. It's about understanding them, integrating them, and ultimately, using them as fuel for growth. It's about becoming more whole, not just trying to be, quote unquote good.
This is already making me think differently about my own life. But let's talk about another one of Jung's big ideas. And I'll admit this was a bit of a mind bender for me. The collective unconscious. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does sound a bit out there, right? But Jung was suggesting that beneath our individual unconscious minds, there's this deeper layer that we all share as humans. It's like this universal well filled with ancestral memories, instincts, and what he called
archetypes. The video mentioned Star Wars as an example, an example of how these archetypes play out in stories.
Yeah.
Like the hero, the mentor, the villain. These characters, they resonate with us across cultures and across time periods.
Yeah, and Jung would say that's because they're tapping into those universal patterns that exist within all of us, and understanding these archetypes can be incredibly insightful. It's like holding up a mirror to our own lives and seeing ourselves reflected in these ancient stories and figures.
Yeah. So by understanding these archetypes, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. It's like a secret code to unlock the human experience.
Exactly. And that's what makes, I think, Jung's work, it's just so fascinating because he connects psychology with mythology, with spirituality, even with art and literature. And it's just such a holistic approach to understanding, what it means to be human.
Okay. All right. So we've covered some pretty, heady concepts here.
Yeah.
Individuation, the shadow of the collective unconscious. But let's bring it back down to earth.
Yeah.
What does all of this have to do with, with us here and now in our everyday lives? What are some practical steps, some practical steps that we can take to move towards this individuation process?
Right. Well, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Right. And the video actually lays out some really, really clear, actionable steps. And, and it all starts with becoming aware of those ways that we might be, kind of wasting our lives, those patterns of passive living that keep us stuck.
So like staying in a job that's soul crushing.
Yeah.
Or avoiding that difficult conversation with a loved one. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we need to start paying attention to, right?
Yeah.
But what are some other signs that we might be off track?
Yeah. Well, one red flag is chronic boredom, or dissatisfaction. And it's not just feeling blah sometimes, it's that persistent sense that something is missing. Like you're not truly engaged, with your life. Another sign is feeling unmotivated or stuck, procrastinating on things that matter, just kind of going through the motions.
And those feelings are often rooted in fear, right? I mean, fear of failure, fear of making the wrong choice.
Yeah.
It can be totally paralyzing.
Absolutely. And then there's the trap, there's the trap of living according to other people's expectations, choosing a career to please your parents or curating this perfect social media image, instead of building genuine connections.
It's so easy to fall into that trap. We're constantly bombarded with these messages about what we should be doing, what success should look like. But it's all about tuning out that noise and listening to that inner voice, that authentic self that just knows what truly matters.
Yeah, exactly. And the good news is once we start to recognize these patterns, we can begin to shift them.
Okay, so we've identified some of those red flags, those sneaky ways we might be, wasting our lives.
Yeah.
But now the big question is, how do we actually start reclaiming it? Like where do we even begin?
Well, the video suggests starting with those 3 key steps that we mentioned earlier. And remember, wait, it's a journey. It's a journey, not a race. So just be patient. Be patient with yourself and celebrate each step forward. So first up, facing your shadow.
Ooh, I'm kind of nervous about this one, but also excited. It's like exploring uncharted territory, within ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And remember facing your shadow. This isn't about self-criticism. It's about self-discovery. It's about understanding those parts of ourselves that we've tried to hide, even from ourselves. And journaling. Journaling can be a really, really powerful tool for that.
Right. So instead of beating ourselves up, for that jealousy, we feel like towards a colleague, we could explore it in our journal. Try to understand where it's coming from. Maybe it's not about them, right? Maybe it's about a desire that we've been, suppressing within ourselves.
Yeah. That's a fantastic example. And Jung would say that those quote unquote negative emotions, they're often trying to point us towards something valuable. They're like signposts on the road to wholeness. So instead of resisting them, we can learn to listen to them, to see what they have to teach us.
Okay. So that's facing the shadow. What about seeking meaning? I mean, the video made it sound like this isn't about, some grand quest like for the meaning of life, but about connecting with what truly matters to us, us individually.
Exactly. It's about identifying those things that make us feel alive, that give us a sense of purpose, And maybe it's spending time in nature, or creating art, or connecting with loved ones. It doesn't have to be something big or impressive. It's about what resonates with your soul.
I love that. I love that. So much of our lives are dictated by external pressures, by what we should be doing or achieving. It's so easy to just lose sight of what actually brings us joy.
Right. Right. And that's where experimentation comes in. The video encourages us to try new things, to explore different hobbies, to step outside of our comfort zones. It's about approaching life with curiosity and a willingness to discover, those hidden passions that we might not even know we have.
That's such a great reminder.
Yeah.
We get so caught up in our routines. It's easy to forget that that life is meant to be an adventure. But how does this connect to Jung's idea of the collective unconscious and those archetypes that we talked about earlier?
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. Those archetypes, they represent universal human experiences and aspirations. Like the hero's journey, the quest for love, the struggle against adversity. I mean, these themes are woven into our myths, our stories, our dreams, and by paying attention to which archetypes resonate with us, we can gain clues. We can gain clues about our own unique path.
Oh, okay. So if someone is constantly drawn to stories of artists and creators, maybe that's a sign that they need to express their own creativity in some way, or if they're fascinated by tales of adventure and exploration, maybe that's a nudge to step outside their comfort zone and try something new.
Exactly. It's like those archetypes are speaking to us, offering guidance and inspiration. They're reminding us of our potential, of those deeper longings that might be lying dormant within us. And remember Jung believed that the individuation process is ultimately about integrating those archetypal energy into our conscious lives.
Oh, that's pretty profound. So we've talked about facing the shadow, seeking meaning, and the last piece of the puzzle is embracing growth. What does that look like in practice?
Well, Jung was fascinated. He was fascinated by the idea of that ancient practice of transforming base metals into gold. And he saw a parallel in the process of personal growth.
Oh, so it's not about trying to become perfect or avoid challenges. It's about embracing those challenges as opportunities for transformation, for turning those base metals of our flaws and limitations into something more valuable.
Exactly. It's about reframing those difficult experiences as necessary steps, as necessary steps on the path to becoming our truest selves.
So instead of getting discouraged, by a setback like at work, we could see it as a chance to learn and grow. Maybe there's a valuable lesson hidden within that experience that we wouldn't have learned otherwise.
That's the alchemical process. That's the alchemical process that Jung was talking about. It's about taking those difficult emotions, those painful experiences, and transmuting them into wisdom, into resilience, and ultimately into a more authentic and fulfilling life. I mean, it's not easy, right? But it's incredibly rewarding.
Man, this whole conversation is making me realize how much of our suffering comes from resisting those difficult those difficult parts of life. We try to avoid pain, but maybe it's actually the key. It's actually the key to unlocking our greatest potential.
Yeah, that's such a powerful insight, and it's what makes Jung's work so relevant. Even today, he was reminding us that a path to wholeness isn't about bypassing the darkness. It's about integrating it, learning from it, and ultimately transforming it into something beautiful.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground. We talked about facing the shadow, seeking meaning, and embracing growth. These are all such powerful tools for reclaiming our lives. But I think a lot of listeners might be wondering how do we actually put this into action?
Right. Well, that's a great question, and it's where things can feel a bit overwhelming, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in the big picture, in those grand visions of who we want to become. But the key is to start small. To take those first steps, even if they feel imperfect.
Right. So instead of trying to overhaul our entire lives like overnight, we could focus on incorporating one small change at a time.
Exactly. Maybe it's starting a journaling practice, or signing up for that art class you've been curious about, or even just committing to spending 15 minutes each day doing something that truly brings you joy. The important thing is to build momentum, to create those small wins that will motivate you.
That's such great advice.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get paralyzed by the fear of not doing it perfectly. Yeah. But as they say, right, progress.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And remember, even small changes made consistently can have a huge impact over time.
Okay. So we've talked about the importance of taking action, of starting small and building momentum. But I think one of the biggest obstacles to change is procrastination.
Yeah.
Right. We tell ourselves we'll get to those dreams later. After we've achieved this or that. Yeah. But this video, it really hit home for me when it talked about, the urgency of taking action now. It's like, why wait? Why wait to start living a more fulfilling life?
Right. I mean, you're absolutely right. Procrastination, it can be such a subtle but powerful force. It keeps us stuck in those same old patterns.
So how do we break free?
Mm-hmm.
How do we break free from that procrastination trap? I mean, it's easy to say, just do it, but I think we could all use some practical tips, to actually make it happen.
For sure. Well, one thing that the video really emphasized was, the importance of challenging those limiting beliefs. Those limiting beliefs that often fuel procrastination. It's that voice in our head that says, I'm not good enough, or I'll fail, or it's too late.
Those are the worst. It's like they're almost designed to keep us small and safe, but they actually end up, they keep us from going after what we truly want.
Exactly. So instead of letting those thoughts, just run the show, what if we started like questioning them? What if we asked ourselves, is this really true, or what evidence do I have? Like, what evidence do I have to actually support this belief?
It's like putting those negative thoughts on trial.
Right.
Instead of just accepting them as fact, we can start to examine them, a little more critically.
Right. And often when we do that, when we really do that, we realize that those beliefs, they're just based on fear. They're not based on reality.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So the next time that I catch myself thinking, like, oh, I'm not ready to start that project yet. Maybe I should ask myself, like, what am I really afraid of, and see if those fears are actually valid.
Yeah. That's a great strategy. And and sometimes those fears, they are pointing us towards something important. Maybe we need to learn a new skill or gather more information before we take that leap. But the key is to face those fears, to face those fears head on instead of letting them hold us back.
So facing our fears, challenging those limiting beliefs, and taking those small but consistent actions, these are all such powerful tools for reclaiming our lives.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to acknowledge, that this journey of individuation, it's not always going to be easy, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Jung believed that personal growth, it often involves confronting difficult emotions, facing our shadows, and even experiencing periods of uncertainty and doubt.
It's like that saying, no pain, no gain.
Right. But maybe in this case, it's more like no discomfort, no growth.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it's in those moments, of discomfort that we often discover, our greatest strengths, our resilience.
Yep. It's like those challenges are actually pushing us. They're pushing us to become, more than we thought we could be. Exactly. And Jung believed that it's through facing and integrating, those difficult experiences that we ultimately become more whole and more authentically ourselves.
Okay, so listener, if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed or intimidated by this whole individuation process, just remember it's a journey, not a destination. It's about taking those small steps, being kind to yourself along the way, and celebrating each victory, no matter how small.
Yeah, I mean that's such an important message, and remember, right? You don't have to do it alone. There are resources available, books, communities, therapists, people who can support you on this journey.
Jung's work can feel pretty dense, pretty complex. Yeah. But this video, I mean, it did such a great job of distilling those key concepts into actionable advice. And ultimately I think it comes down to this, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop letting fear dictate your choice, and start living a life that truly aligns with who you were meant to be.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to sum it up. And I want to leave our listener with one final thought-provoking question. It's inspired by Jung himself, and it's this: what would it look like? What would it look like for you to live a life that truly honors your potential?
Ooh, what a powerful question. Listener, we encourage you to sit with that for a while.
Yeah.
Journal about it, meditate on it, let it guide your choices and actions.
And remember, right, you have everything you need within you to answer that question and create the life you were meant to live. This deep dive, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of that journey.
So go out there and explore, experiment, and most importantly, embrace the incredible adventure of becoming your truest self.